Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the Lamar Jackson situation. I got a couple outcomes that I think could happen and ones that are just some interesting things to talk about. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of teams that come out and say they're not in the Lamar Jackson situation, but I'm going to go over what I think based on kind of some of those. Like some teams, like the Falcons, are a team that I really like for him, but they've come out multiple times and said they're not. So I'm going to move away from them, even though I really like that. We'll go over some other scenarios. But first, let me go ahead and tell you guys about the Lamar Jackson situation, his tag, and kind of everything about that. So he basically got the restricted franchise tag where he can go out, I believe it's color restricted, but he can go out and seek deals from another team. And then if another team offers him a deal, then the Ravens either have a chance to match that deal, or if they don't match it, Lamar Jackson signs with a new team. But then based on the tag, that new team must send the Baltimore Ravens 2 first-round picks in return for Lamar Jackson. Now, we saw the reports earlier in the week that Lamar Jackson at the beginning of March officially did request a trade from the Ravens. So it seems more and more likely that he's going to leave. But I got 4 options for you guys that are either going to happen. These are the 4 ways it'll go. One is that he stays, which what I just said probably makes it seem like he's probably not going to stay. That'd be my guess. But that is option one. Option two is that he can just get straight up traded. So they have him on the tag. The Ravens can just trade him and then he stays on that tag and then a new team can work a deal from there. So for an option like, say just for example, one of the things that people float around there is the Patriots could say, hey, we'll send you our first round pick and Mac Jones, and we'll send you like 2 firsts and Mac Jones or something like that. Or I guess probably if this trade would happen to be less than 2 firsts. So they'd say like, hey, we'll give you a first and Mac Jones, you send us Lamar, and then the Patriots can work a new deal from there. That's option one. That while that is likely, I don't know what team would necessarily make that deal, but we'll have to kind of see. One thing we saw about this, Jarvis Landry is a good one. If you go back and look at Jarvis Landry, when he got franchise tagged, he got traded to the Browns. That's the most recent time I can think of someone getting franchise tagged and traded on the tag. But the other 2 options are, like I said, where he can get signed, he can agree to a deal. The Ravens don't match the deal, then they send 2 firsts. Now, there's 2 options from this. Option one is that this happens before the draft, and then that team would send their 23 and 24 first round picks, most likely. Now, they can choose, like if the Detroit Lions wanted to trade him, they could give up their, I think it's like pick 19 or something, and then next year's first. So they don't have to give up their number 6 overall pick if they don't want to. Or the fourth option is he could get that same deal, but it can happen after the draft. So a team that is like picking in the top 10 right now, like I got my first example I'll show you guys is a team picking in the top 10. They can make their selection on draft day in the first round, and then after the draft, they can then sign Lamar, and then they'd be giving up their 24 and 25 first round picks. So this works for a team if they have a really good like top 10 pick this year, they can wait till after the draft so they don't have to give up their top 10 pick for Lamar Jackson. With that being said, that's kind of the whole situation. If you got any more questions, there's news all about it online, or leave questions in the comments. I can try to clear some. I obviously don't know everything too. The salary cap and the contracts and stuff is one of the most confusing parts of the NFL. Like the salary cap isn't even a real thing. So like one of the things that we have to take into account when looking at targets is that Lamar Jackson does have to get a new deal under the salary cap. But at the same time, the salary cap is kind of a myth. I mean, you can always finagle contracts and work his new contracts into different cap situations and stuff. Plus, there's about to be a huge boom in the salary cap with the new TV rights deal coming soon. So we'll just keep an eye out. But like, I'm not really worried about salary cap just because, like I said, I think any team can really make it work if they wanted to. But nonetheless, we're going to go over 2 different places. I think Lamar Jackson is a good destination. In those 2 places, I have 2 different replacement plans for each team with how the Ravens should go about rebuilding their quarterback position and their roster. I got mock drafts for each of the situations too coming up. So we got a whole in-depth coming up with how the Ravens will go about this, almost like 4 different ways that they should go about this with some mock drafts and the trade setup. Let's go ahead and get into our first destination for Lamar Jackson that I think could happen. Our first trade partner for Lamar Jackson is going to be, as you can see on the screen, the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts have not had a quarterback. Their front office has been under a lot of fire recently after, the Ellinger, Matt Ryan experience this year. You had the Wentz experience, the Philip Rivers. They've had a turnstile at quarterback ever since Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning. And so I think this is the Colts are saying, hey, we're under a lot of fire right now. Our fans are pissed at us. We haven't been good for a couple years. We need to make a splash, and Lamar Jackson is that splash. Now, this is going to be that second scenario that I was talking to you guys about, where I believe if the Colts make a move for Lamar Jackson, they hold the 5th overall pick in this draft. I think it makes so much sense for the Colts to wait until after the draft, make their selection at 5. I don't have a mock draft for them at 5, but I would assume, you're looking at Will Anderson, maybe a Jalen Carter, Paris Johnson. One of those top linemen would probably be my bet. They could go Witherspoon or even trade down, but just have a normal draft this year. And then after the draft is over, you sign Lamar Jackson. Then you send the Ravens, then get the Colts 24 and 25 firsts for Lamar Jackson. Then Lamar Jackson becomes an Indianapolis Colts. This is just one of those situations where the Colts, we know, have interest. They said at these owners' meetings that they're definitely doing their due diligence. They have a good roster built around. I mean, we've seen them even with zombie Matt Ryan, as Bill Simmons likes to say. Zombie Matt Ryan won this team some games, and they were feisty in some, they took the Philadelphia Eagles, they almost beat them, and the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. They beat the Chiefs, who won the Super Bowl. That was a feisty team, and it's you put a dude with Lamar Jackson, get him in a dome nonetheless. So I think he'll just even more excel in a dome. Just we don't have to worry about weather. He's gonna be running around there. Him and Jonathan Taylor would create one of the best run games in the NFL. I think the Colts would be a great fit for Lamar and a team, an organization that's been struggling the last couple of years to make a move and say, hey, we're not okay with being decent. We're going to make our splash and make the move for a top quarterback in the NFL. We're going to send our 2 first-round picks. We're going to pair Lamar Jackson with a dude like Will Anderson, who could potentially be there. If there's a run of 4 quarterbacks, Will Anderson's there. Like him, Paris Johnson, Jalen Carter, like I said, you get a blue chip dude to throw in with Lamar Jackson, and this team is automatically, one of the front runners in the South. Is really, them and the Jaguars next year are going to be fighting for it, but they instantly leap up into that thing where if they don't make this move for Lamar, you could settle for a Will Levis in the draft if you're the Colts, but that's still going to keep you down there with the Texans and the Titans, who are in this kind of quarterback purgatory, and you don't know. You make this move for a former unanimous MVP, and you're instantly at the top of your division, competing with a chance. We've seen in the AFC, you need a top-tier quarterback to win with the likes of Herbert, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes in the AFC. You need a top-tier quarterback. I think Lamar Jackson is a top-tier quarterback. Like I said, unanimous MVP. This dude's a baller. His health is definitely the only thing that I think is holding it back, along with I think there's definitely collusion among the owners to not give him a big contract after what happened with the Watson situation. But I think Lamar Jackson, they can offer him a good contract. And, I think the whole city of Indianapolis, I think, would round up around Lamar Jackson. This would be an interesting team to compete in the South. Next up, let's go ahead and get to, based on this draft, now this is what the Colts side. Now let's go ahead and see what the Ravens would do based on this trade and how they can rebuild their roster if they make this trade. I guess kind of a sign and trade with the Indianapolis Colts. If I'm the Baltimore Ravens and I just got rid of Lamar Jackson, you got 2 options in my opinion. You either sit on this and, like I said, you're doing this after the draft, so you don't have a chance to go and get a quarterback in this year's draft. You either wait until next year and get a dude, which I definitely think is a real option. Wait for a Caleb Williams or Drake May, or you go and grab the biggest lottery ticket in the NFL right now and Trey Lance. San Francisco 49ers, kind of iffy about Trey Lance. We don't know if he's really available for trade. What is it? But we do know that the Niners came out and said Brock Purdy is their front runner right now for that starting job when he's healthy. I don't know what's going on with Trey Lance. We haven't really gotten to see him yet, which is the difference between Sam Darnold and him, where Sam Darnold we saw and he wasn't that great, whereas Trey Lance was a top pick because he has this incredible ceiling with strong arm, incredible athleticism. We just haven't got to see it. He started, I believe, 1 game his rookie year where he looked pretty decent, and then he started a monsoon game against the Bears this year and then got hurt in his second game. We haven't gotten to see Trey Lance yet, but I was a huge Trey Lance fan. I definitely had him. I definitely think he was right pick at 3. I don't know if he's still the dude, but if you're the Ravens and you want a lottery ticket, Trey Lance is that option out there that if the Niners are willing to deal him, which, like I said, is a big if. There's a good chance the Niners spent a lot of draft capital to go up and get Trey Lance. There's definitely a big possibility that they don't want to move him and they want to still, have that competition. But if they are willing to move him, this is the perfect opportunity for the Ravens to kind of skip that rebuild and go get a quarterback that you already, think could have that high upside. And here's a trade I've lined out. I have no idea what Trey Lance will be worth. Like I said, we haven't seen him, but he still has that pedigree. So I kind of base around, if you saw the Sam Darnold trade, like I said, I think we haven't seen him where Sam Darnold looked, but Sam Darnold went for, I believe it was a second, a fourth, and a sixth. So I kind of base around that and like the Carson Wentz deal as some of the two deals I kind of base around. And I have a third round pick, and obviously this will happen after the draft when Lamar's gone, so there isn't any 2023 picks involved. But so you probably get a third round pick in 2024. And I have also a second round that would be a conditional, where based on whatever conditions they want, whether it's a snap percentage of him playing or whether it's like a yardage, touchdowns, whether they make the playoffs, some kind of conditional that can make it a first, depending on how Trey Lance does in Baltimore. I think that's the most fair trade I could come up with, where if he goes there and doesn't really play, nothing happens, it's a second and a third, kind of similar to that Darnold value. But if he goes there and starts playing really well and hits these different conditions, then it becomes a first and a third, and it's more over that Carson Wentz value that we saw. So I think that's the best trade I could think of. It might cost a first, but if you're the Ravens, you probably don't want to give up a first, because there's a chance that you could be bad next year, and then you want a chance at Drake May or Caleb Williams. You don't want to give up like a top 5 pick. So I think the Baltimore Ravens wouldn't want to give up a first, but if they can do a conditional second that where it's somehow if Trey Lance plays a lot and he's good, it becomes a first, I think that's the perfect deal for both sides. If the Niners, if you love Brock Purdy, man, you get a conditional second that could be a first, a very valuable pick, along with a third, they got a really expensive roster right now, so to get some more top 50 picks for the Niners coming up in the future, kind of help that salary cap and get some cheaper guys. I think it's a trade where if the Niners are willing to move on from Trey Lance, it could be a win-win trade for both sides. And then with this trade, let me go ahead and get right into my 2023 mock draft for the Ravens, show you guys how they can mock draft around getting Trey Lance. So we won't draft a quarterback. This will be my 23 mock for if they do the Colts and this Trey Lance trade, how they become a contender this year in the 2023 draft. All right, this is what I got for the Ravens 2023 mock draft. I went ahead and did this on a mock draft site and just brought it over rather than, showing the whole thing. But so obviously if you have problems with the values, go with the mock draft simulator, not me. But I got one at their first round pick at 22. I got Bijan Robinson. The Ravens want to be a run heavy team. Even with Greg Roman leaving, I still believe they want that identity. They have that big brawling O-line and Linderbaum. And then I think they build around that O-line. They still want to be that running team. And as much as I love J.K. Dobbins, I mean, just the health hasn't been there. And you don't want to go into a situation where you're running out Kenyon Drake again for more. So I'm going to go ahead and get the best running back we've seen in a long time in the draft. I think he's, like I said, I've said in videos before, I think he's a better prospect than Saquon Barkley. Bijan Robinson is all around. He's one of the best. He's one of the best receiving backs we've seen in a long time. Incredible balance. He's got great speed. One of the highest forced missed tackle rates in college we've seen. Just how good Bijan is. Get him at 122 behind this run heavy offense. I mean, him and J.K. Dobbins can be you want Bijan 3 down, but imagine Bijan in this Ravens offense. That's just a dude. So I'm going to go ahead and get that running back. Then in the third round, I pick 86. I'm going to get Tank Dell, help that receiving room out with a electric slot dude. Just one of the most electric receivers in this class, balled out at the Senior Bowl. He's a smaller dude, but pair him with Bateman and Nelson Aguilar, and you just got tons of speed in that offense. That's what I like. You got Bijan in that heavy run game, and then you can create a play action game with just tons of speed with Bateman, Aguilar, Tank Dell. I mean, that's going to be play action heaven for Trey Lance. The dude's just going to be able to hand the ball off, play action, and just chuck that thing down the field. With how strong of an arm Trey Lance has, I mean, these weapons downfield would just be insane for him. Then in the fourth round, we definitely need some cornerback depth for the Ravens. I'm going to go Trey Hodges-Tomlinson, quarterback from TCU. Yes, I know he's incredibly small, but he's also an incredibly good corner. I mean, dude can play, even though he's small, he can play up in your face. He's not going to be your cornerback one. That's why you're getting him in the fourth round. But pair him with what you already have there in Marlon Humphrey. And I think, he can be a rotational dude that can provide some really good value. As even undersized, he's one of the best well-rounded corners other than size, just with his talent and just understanding of football. Get him in the fourth. And in the fifth round, we lost Calais Campbell this offseason. So I want to get some more help on the interior of that D line. So we're gonna get Kobe Turner, defensive tackle from Wake Forest, one of my favorite D tackles in the mid to late rounds of this draft. I don't know if he'll be there in the 5th round, but he was there in this case. We're gonna get him at pick 157. He can play that like 3 technique, 2. He's not going to be a true nose tackle, but he kind of got that in Travis Jones last year in the class, which I loved that pick. But like we've seen the Ravens year after year, they just get the best values in the drafts. Like Travis Jones was a great example last year, but Kobe Turner would just be an incredible value if he's there in the 5th. Kind of that rotational D lineman who can help out. And then in the 6th round, we're going to get Chandler Zavala, a dude who I almost guarantee won't be there in the 6th round. He's one of the highest risers this offseason. Had a great Shrine Bowl, balled out at his pro day with some incredible testing numbers. But he's just he's just one of the really smart, good interior linemen who you can get who I think can play early on in there. Pair him at guard with, Linderbaum, and you got some good tackles already with like Ronnie Stanley. Pair him in there at guard and just help that O-line and give Trey Lance every opportunity to be able to succeed when he comes into this offense. But that's going to be the 2023 draft that I would have now. So after all of this coming together, let's go ahead and see what the Ravens would end up out of this first situation from that. So in the end of this whole situation, we end up the Lamar Jackson goes to the Colts. We get 2 firsts for the Ravens in 2024, 2025. We give up some mid-round, maybe a first-round pick for Trey Lance, get our quarterback in, and then we have a great well-rounded draft getting Bijan, Tank Dell, some interior O-line help, interior D-line help, and Trey Hodges-Thomason kind of build out some of those rosters. And we end up rolling in with Trey Lance in the Ravens offense. That would just be a fun offense, and you're automatically back in that AFC North race, I believe. If this whole thing goes out, like I said, they're instantly back in the race in the AFC North. Now, like I said, if that Colts trade could still happen, and then they could almost just do a mini tank for Caleb Williams or Drake May. That definitely wouldn't be a bad option. I think that's definitely an option they could definitely look at taking if the Colts end up getting Lamar after the draft. But that is going to be the end of that first scenario that we have. Now we're going to go into my second situation, which is going to be a pre-draft trade for Lamar Jackson, how they could go about manipulating the 2023 draft with a Lamar Jackson trade. And for that, we're going to go over into our graphic for our second trade for Lamar Jackson. The second trade I have for Lamar Jackson is with the Tennessee Titans, another team who's kind of in that quarterback range where, they've had Tannehill for a couple years. He's good, but he's not going to really win you a Super Bowl. They drafted Malik Willis late in the 3rd round last year. He showed what we saw in college, struggles throwing the ball, but a good runner. You still have Derrick Henry. He's kind of on the chopping block. You don't really know what the Titans are going to do. They're either going to rebuild, or if they don't rebuild, they're going to make a move for Lamar Jackson to instantly become a contender. And what I said is a very open AFC South. So we've got 2 AFC South options here, but a contender in the AFC South. The Tennessee Titans make this trade before the 2023 draft. They don't want to have to worry about teams like the Colts and like these top 10, maybe like the Lions or the Falcons, these teams with top 10 picks. They don't want to have to worry about fighting with them after the draft. So they're going to go ahead and make their move before the draft, offer him a huge contract, give up their 2023 first-round pick at pick 11 and their 2024 pick, go out and get Lamar Jackson. You're telling me, if anyone in the comments wants to tell me you don't want to watch Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the same offense, then I don't know what you're doing trying to watch football, because that would be one of the most fun things to watch in the entire league. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson would create one of the best run games in the NFL right out the gate. And just a fun offense. We definitely need to get some more weapons for the Titans. We're hoping Treylon Burks can make that step up. And then, Kyle Phillips is a dude I loved watching. He's got a little ways to go, but like they got some up on up. I love Chikakonko. He's one of my favorite young tight ends. I think he's going to have a huge season this next year. And, he can kind of be the Mark Andrews for Lamar Jackson, just an electric weapon. And, this offense, you still got a little ways to go after this trade, but like you're a lot closer to being a contender with Lamar Jackson than you are with rolling out Ryan Tannehill or Malik Willis, whichever one of those you want to roll out. Lamar Jackson is definitely an option to go ahead and make a splash. You got embarrassed last year with the A.J. Brown trade. Don't do it again and sell Jeffrey Simmons and, some of these rumors we've been hearing. go out and spend your picks and get Lamar Jackson. Like I said, a top 8 quarterback for sure in the NFL, one of the elite guys that can change your offense. I mean, Lamar Jackson, dude, he doesn't need weapons. He can carry, him and Derrick Henry could carry an offense with just how dominant they can be on the ground and just his electric attitude he's going to bring. They can carry an offense. And if you're the Ravens, you get a top tier pick at pick 11 from the Tennessee Titans with a lot of places you can go in this year's draft. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the Ravens options now. If this happens, how can the Ravens maneuver the draft? I got 2 different options for the Ravens that they can do with this move, not including Trey Lance. They could still do this and make the Trey Lance. I just want to show you guys some other options of what the Ravens can do with that pick 11 in this draft. One of them I think some Ravens fans are going to like. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The first option after acquiring the pick 11 would be just kind of run the carousel at quarterback, which I think this is the more boring option. But you could just run the carousel. You know, you could, whether you want to start Pro Bowl quarterback. Sorry. I can't say it. Tyler Huntley. You could start Tyler Huntley at quarterback. Or you could, you know, I don't know whether you want to pick someone up. In this mock draft, you can see I got him picking DTR. Maybe you just go with a developmental guy. And this could be another play for a Drake May or Caleb Williams in next year's. But you spend that pick 11. I got him going Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, from the Ohio State. If you guys have seen some of my videos, you know how much I love Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, I think this dude is better than any receiver in last year's class. I think he's just such a smart, electric football player. I mean, like, I think because we didn't see him play this year, some people are more low on him. But, like, I don't really care. We saw dudes like Jamar Chase took a whole year off, and that was a question for people. They were like, hey, Jamar Chase took a year off from football because his was because of COVID. Jackson Smith and Jigba was injuries, but still, Jamar Chase took a year off, and that was a question people had. He ends up going 5 and ends up having one of the best rookie receiver seasons we've seen in a while, you know? It's like, I don't really care. I mean, this dude had like legendary 3-cone and agility performances at the combine. This dude's just such a smart football player. You ask like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, they both say he's like the best receiver there, most athletic. Like, this dude's just a stud. Pair him with Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar, and you got a little trio. He's going to be one of the best slot receivers in the NFL the day he steps on the field and help whatever quarterback you want to go with for the Ravens. Then at pick 22, get some cornerback help, like I mentioned that last draft. Get Deonte Banks, one of the most athletic dudes in this class, who was just lockdown corner at Maryland. The only question is he had some questionable ball skills. He didn't really have that ball production, but like, we're just talking about lockdown corners. I mean, this dude and Marlon Humphrey could step up and be an elite cornerback duo, and I love what he brings. Deonte Banks is one of my also favorite guys. Staying in the state of Maryland, I don't know how close the University of Maryland is to Baltimore. I'm pretty sure they're pretty close, but like just right down the road, staying in kind of that Maryland area, and just an electric corner. Then we go to our 3rd round pick. I got myself Andre Carter, the edge from Army. If there's anyone who can develop Andre Carter into an elite defensive end, I mean, it's the Ravens with Odafe Owe. You know, they got some dudes. Ajabo last year, they got some dudes, but just pair more into that edge. Like I said, Andre Carter is definitely a project. He's a freak, you know, big dude. He's got one of those guys like, you draft him for what he could be. I don't know if he'll be there in the 3rd round. I ultimately don't think he will, but if he is there, the Ravens take a chance on him, and they can groom into an elite defensive end, hopefully down the road. And then in the 4th round, we're going Mike Morris. I have him listed at DN from Michigan. He's kind of like a tweener. I draft him thinking he kind of play that Calais Campbell role where he, you know, slide in from DN to D tackle and be a more versatile guy in their fronts. I love Mike Morris as like one of those versatile dudes that can play a little inside, play a little outside. He's a little bit bigger defensive end. So he's not going to play when you see like 2 defensive ends in the 3rd and 4th round, you're kind of like, well, we already have depth. Mike Morris is going to be more that interior flex guy. Like I said, he's my Calais Campbell, hopefully down the road replacement for them. And then the 5th round, we get one of my favorite dudes the entire draft. If you want to hear more about Israel Abanikanda, go check out my offensive gems. I talk more. He went out and just balled at his pro day. And I don't think this dude's going to be there in the 5th round. I think he's a day 2 pick after this. But if he is there, Israel Abanikanda, running back from Pittsburgh. Pair him with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. You got a deep, versatile running back. You got Gus Edwards, your short down guy. J.K. Dobbins, kind of that all-around dude. And then Israel Abanikanda is going to be that home run threat in that offense. Just keep that running culture there. I love Israel Abanikanda as a late-round dude who could be a 3-down back. Like I love Israel Abanikanda. Like I said, check out my offensive gems if you want to hear more. And then another dude who was in my offensive gems in the 6th round, we're getting DTR from UCLA, the quarterback. Another dude, he's my favorite developmental quarterback to draft in this class. If you're going to draft like a day 3 quarterback, great arm, great velocity on his arm. Maybe the deep ball a little, but like he's got good accuracy. Coming for that Chip Kelly, he's a smart dude coming out of UCLA. He'd be a great backup quarterback day 1, and you never know what he could be, but he's kind of, just going to be a good backup quarterback. He could kind of provide a similar skill set that Huntley could. I think he's a better thrower than Huntley, but I mean, that's still to be seen. But I think he would compete with Huntley in this situation for a quarterback job. In worst case, you just got a developmental dude that you can bring into and just keep on your roster down the roads. I don't know if they're going to keep Huntley. I think he could end up leaving sometime down the road. So he's going to be your backup quarterback, at least of the future. So this is option 1, like I said, for their draft with pick 11 if they don't decide to attack quarterback this year. But now let's get into some fun. Let's show you how they can attack quarterback this year in a really fun way. If we're talking about fun Ravens opportunities, this is why I said Ravens fans are going to love. In this situation, we're packaging picks 11, 22, and I threw their 3rd in there just because I really don't know what it would take to get all the way up to 3 from 11. But so I packaged 11, 22 in their 3rd round pick to move up to pick 103 with the Arizona Cardinals and draft Anthony Richardson, quarterback from Florida, the freakiest athlete in this class. Had a great showing as pro day, had a legendary combine performance. I mean, this dude's rising up the boards. They go ahead and take their lottery. They get their picks from Lamar and say, hey, we're going to go cash in all of these picks we just got and go get our quarterback in the future. We're not waiting until next year. We're not playing any of the Huntley games. We're going to go get our dude right now. So that's what they do. Trade up with the Cardinals, get Anthony Richardson in the building, and start that rebuild right now. Anthony Richardson doesn't have to start right away, but I think you could throw him out there and just give him reps. He hasn't played a lot in his career, so that's one thing you want to just give him more opportunity to learn the game, learn playing quarterback, and give him those opportunities in a quarterback-friendly offense that they're hopefully going to be building around the run game here. That's what I have. The 4th, 5th, and 6th round picks I just took from my first mock draft. I kind of just kept them the same. I figured we've already talked about enough late round guys. So I got Trey Hodges, Kobe Turner, Chandler Zavala, just the same picks I had from that first. But the main reason I wanted to show this was to show you guys that Anthony Richardson possibilities that they have. I think this would be one of the most fun situations. I mean, you lose Lamar Jackson, the most athletic quarterback in the league, and you get what might potentially be an even more athletic quarterback in Anthony Richardson. This would be the most fun situations. I don't know if Ravens fans like Anthony Richardson or not. If they do, which they probably will lose Lamar, I don't know if they like Anthony Richardson or not. But this would be probably like one of the most fun situations for Ravens fans. If you do lose Lamar, you at least get another electric quarterback that is going to make this offense, even if you're not very good, it's going to be fun, and it has that upside. Anthony Richardson has that upside to be that Josh Allen type talent. So you're just taking, like I said with Trey Lance, he's that lottery ticket. Anthony Richardson is that next lottery ticket that the Ravens can take. You're losing Lamar Jackson. That's a tough loss. You're losing one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. You're going to have to take a chance if you want to even be close to replace that. And Anthony Richardson is the biggest lottery ticket in this draft where he could be better than Lamar Jackson or he couldn't be a starting quarterback. We don't know, but he has that upside that you want to take that risk on if you're the Ravens. That's why you're trading 2 first-round picks to go up and get him in this situation for the Ravens. Now, kind of concluding that whole Titans situation, we send Lamar Jackson to the Titans. The Titans try to build around Lamar and Derrick Henry and just be a ground and pound team and just be a bully in the AFC South. And then in the Ravens, we go one of two ways. We either wait till next year for our quarterback and go in and just get some elite talent in this draft with like a guy like JSN and Deontay Banks in the first, or we make our move this year and go in and get Anthony Richardson to put in this offense and start that rebuild right now. Anyways, those are going to be the only 2 situations I'm going over. Like I said, those aren't the only 2. Like I still think the Falcons would be a great fit, but they've already said they're out. The Lions are another team that I think would be perfect for Lamar. They've said they're out for whatever reason. I think the Lions should definitely be in. We're not going to go over them in this video, but the Lions should definitely be in. And then there's obviously other teams like, the Niners could just trade Trey Lance. And when I was talking about a trade without like the 2 first, it could be like a Trey Lance and a first for Lamar Jackson. I could see the Niners making that move. I don't think that would be bad. The Patriots are another team that, could make sense whether they want to, Belichick hasn't been known to make these kind of moves usually. But hey, Bill Belichick's done some weird stuff recently. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots went and said, hey, we'll make a move. And then the other two kind of sleeper teams I don't think are going to happen, but like I said, it's the NFL. You never know. Are the Jets, if everything falls out with Aaron Rodgers, the Jets could definitely be an option. But I think ultimately the Jets get something done for Rodgers, so I'm not going to really go too on about that. And then the wild card is the Miami Dolphins. I mean, this Miami Dolphins team with Lamar, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. I mean, whoo, that offense with Mike McDaniels coaching that offense up. I mean, they're instantly in the Super Bowl favorites, I think, if they make that move. But I think they're going to stick with Tua. Maybe that's to their fault that they stick with Tua too long. But I don't blame them. You have a dude, Tua, who's shown the upside. It's really just the injuries with Tua. Like, when he's healthy and playing, he can run this offense at an elite level. He might not be an elite quarterback himself, but they have enough talent there that can be an elite offense with Tua. So I get them not making the move. But, I mean, come on. For the fun of the league, we want to see Lamar Jackson at Mike McDaniels offense. That would be fun. But nonetheless, let me know which of these two situations you guys, I guess there's really 4 situations in there. Let me know what you guys think would be the most fun. Sorry if you get confused with all this overloaded. I just want to go over so many fun situations because this Lamar, like, we don't get quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson. Young elite quarterbacks don't hit the market. Like, that doesn't happen in the NFL. Lamar Jackson's a huge anomaly. It is one of the most fun storylines in the offseason, and just where he's going to go is going to be fun. There's a chance he returns to the Ravens. Maybe a team, like I said, there's this collusion with the owners. Don't want to give him, guaranteed a lot of guarantees in his contract. They're trying to reset the market after Watson kind of screwed him. They want to show the NFL that, hey, that Watson was an anomaly. That's not the norm. And, Lamar Jackson's kind of getting the short end of the stick. Like, I think if the whole Watson contract didn't happen, Lamar would have already signed with the Ravens. But anyway, there's a chance he does return to the Ravens. That would be the boring situation. I mean, let's be honest. We want to see Lamar Jackson move. We want to see chaos in the league. Chaos is always fun in the league. Anyways, let me know some other situations in the comments of what you guys think will happen to Lamar Jackson. Let me know what you thought about my situations. These are all just for fun. I'm not saying I have sources and this is what can happen. I just want to have some fun and explore some different situations of what could happen with it, because it's, like I said, it doesn't happen very often. And the draft is coming up soon. We'll see if he gets dealt before the draft. I personally think it's after the draft. But that Titans one before the draft could be really fun. And the Ravens might want to push for something before the draft if they really want to rebuild. I will see you guys. I got 4 videos coming out this week. We got D-line rankings. I got a new mock draft coming out. I'm gonna be trying to pound out some content with the draft coming soon. I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe for more content. Check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.